Most men will spend their entire lives confused about women, not because women are complicated, but because those men never learned to understand themselves. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations to impress anyone. He wrote them to discipline the one person he knew he could never fully control, himself. And today, we're going to use that same Stoic wisdom to talk about 10 things that every smart, self-respecting man must stop doing with women immediately. Some of these will be uncomfortable, some will cut deep. But by the end of this video, I promise you, you will see yourself and the women in your life with completely different eyes. Stay with me. Welcome back to Wisdom of the Stoics, the channel where ancient philosophy meets the reality of modern life. If you're new here, take a moment right now and subscribe. Every single week, we go deep into the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, not just to sound wise, but to live differently. Now, before we begin, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. This video is not about manipulation. It is not about winning against women. It is not about making anyone feel superior. The Stoics taught something far more powerful than that. They taught that the quality of your relationships with others is a direct reflection of the quality of your relationship with yourself. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and became one of the greatest philosophers in history, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Epictetus. Wisdom, men, is not about what you have in a relationship. It is about who you are inside one. So let's talk about the 10 things that quietly destroy a man's dignity, his attractiveness, and his peace in his relationships with women. Let's begin. Number 1, never seek her validation to feel worthy. Let me paint you a picture. You send a text, then you wait. You check the phone again and again, and when she finally replies, if her tone is slightly cold, your entire day collapses. Sound familiar? This is what the Stoics would call surrendering your hegemonicon, your ruling faculty, the command center of your soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Marcus Aurelius. When a man ties his sense of worth to a woman's approval, he has handed her the steering wheel of his own identity. And here's the painful truth most men never admit. Women don't want that wheel. It is not attractive to be the compass of someone else's self-esteem. A woman wants to lean on a man who already stands firm, not a man who uses her as the ground he stands on. Smart men understand this. Validation is something you give yourself every morning, through your discipline, your purpose, and your values. Her opinion of you is information. It is not your identity. Ask yourself right now, whose voice determines how you feel about yourself today? If the answer is anyone other than you, that is your first area to work on. Number 2, never abandon your purpose for her attention. Seneca, arguably the most eloquent of all the Stoic philosophers, wrote a letter to his friend Lucilius that cuts right to the bone. He wrote, "It is not that I am brave, but that I know what is not worth fearing. And what is worth fearing is this, to reach the end of your days and realize you spent your life on what did not matter." Seneca, paraphrased. Men abandon their missions for attention every single day. They stop going to the gym. They cancel plans with friends. They ignore their business, their craft, their calling, because a woman texted them, or because they're afraid that if they stay busy, she'll lose interest. Here is what the Stoics knew that most modern men have forgotten. Your purpose is your identity. When you abandon it, even for something as beautiful as love, you are not giving her more of you, you are giving her less of you. The hollow version, the version without the fire. And fire, men, is magnetic. Epictetus warned his students constantly about externals. He said the moment you let an external thing, a person, a reputation, a reward, become more important than your inner work, you have lost your freedom. Real love, Stoic love, does not ask a man to shrink. It makes space for him to grow. So here is the question I want you to sit with. What did you stop doing when you started chasing her? Write that answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Number 3, never argue to win. Argue to understand. This one might be the most practical piece of Stoic wisdom in this entire video. Think about the last real argument you had with a woman. What were you actually fighting for? Were you fighting for truth? Or were you fighting to be right? There is a devastating difference. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, a man who commanded armies and governed millions, wrote this reminder to himself. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, writing that he would happily be corrected. How many of us, with far less power, far less to protect, still can't admit when we're wrong? Smart men understand something crucial about arguments with women. Most arguments are not about the topic on the surface. They are about feeling heard, about feeling respected, about feeling safe. When you fight to win, you may win the argument and lose the relationship. When you fight to understand, you may lose the point and win something far more valuable, her trust. The Stoic practice here is called sympathia, the recognition that we are all connected, all trying, all imperfect. Next time a conversation gets heated, stop, take one breath, and ask yourself, am I trying to dominate or to understand? That 1 second of pause has saved more relationships than any clever argument ever could. Number 4, never use silence as a weapon. The Stoics revered silence. Epictetus famously taught his students to practice restraint of speech, to listen more than they speak, to let wisdom gestate before releasing it. But there is a critical difference between Stoic silence and punishing silence. Stoic silence is disciplined, purposeful. It comes from a place of inner calm. Punishing silence, the kind where you go cold, give one-word answers, pull away, is not strength. It is emotional cowardice wearing the mask of strength. It says, I am hurting, but I won't tell you. I will make you feel it instead. Seneca wrote, anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. When you weaponize silence, you are not protecting your peace. You are poisoning it. Smart men, men who have done the inner work, communicate with calm directness. Not cruelty, not games, not cold withdrawal designed to make her panic. They say, I need some time to process this. Give me an hour. I will come back and we'll talk. That is Stoic silence. That is strength. The silence that punishes. That is the wounded boy, not the wise man. Number 5, never neglect yourself in the name of love. This is the one that most men won't admit they're guilty of. You stop sleeping properly. You stop training. You stop seeing your friends. You reshape your entire schedule, your diet, your dreams around her rhythms, her preferences, her comfort, and you call it devotion. The Stoics would call it something else, self-abandonment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. You cannot be a good man, a strong man, a grounded man, if you are hollow. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. Now, I want to be careful here because this is not an excuse for selfishness. Stoicism is not selfishness. Stoicism is stewardship. You are responsible for the condition of your own mind, body, and spirit. If you neglect those, you are not loving her better. You are bringing a diminished version of yourself into the relationship and expecting her to fill the gap. No one can fill that gap for you. Sleep, train, read, spend time with people who challenge and inspire you. Keep your purpose alive. That man, the one who is full, has something real to offer. The empty man, he only has need, and need without strength to back it is not love. It is dependency. We're halfway through, and I want to pause for just a moment. If this video is resonating with you, if any of these points have made you stop and think, I want you to do one thing right now. Drop a comment below. Just tell me which of these points hit you the hardest so far. The Stoics believed that wisdom shared is wisdom multiplied. So if you know someone, a friend, a brother, someone who needs to hear this, send them this video. It might be the most important thing you do for them today. All right, let's keep going. We're just getting to the deep ones. Number 6, never chase what runs from you. This is where Stoic philosophy gets almost brutally honest. Epictetus, the former slave who became the freest philosopher who ever lived, divided all of existence into two categories: things in your control, things not in your control. He called this the dichotomy of control, and it is the foundation of Stoic freedom. Here is the hard truth. Another person's feelings for you are not in your control. Her interest, her desire, her love. You cannot manufacture it. You cannot chase it into existence. When a man chases, he signals scarcity. He signals fear. He signals that he does not believe he is worth staying for. And paradoxically, the chase confirms her instinct to pull away. The Stoic response is not cruelty or indifference. It is dignity. It is the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth, who can say, without bitterness, I will not pursue someone whose interest I have to manufacture. I will invest my energy where it is genuinely welcomed. That is not coldness. That is respect for her and, more importantly, for yourself. Chasing robs both of you of the authentic dynamic that makes love real. Stop chasing. Start being. The right connections come to the man who is rooted, not to the man who is running. Number 7. Never make her your emotional therapist. Now, before you misunderstand this, I am not telling you to suppress your emotions. The Stoics were not emotionless. Marcus Aurelius grieved deeply. Seneca wrote with raw vulnerability. Epictetus spoke openly about fear and longing. What they opposed was unprocessed emotional dumping, using another person as the container for every unresolved wound, every daily frustration, every fear you haven't yet sat with yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. A relationship is not a therapy session unless it is a mutual one. When a man turns every conversation into an outpouring of his unprocessed pain, he places an enormous burden on the woman he claims to love. She becomes his mother, his counselor, his confessor, and she stops being his partner. This is not sustainable, and it is not fair. The Stoic practice here is journaling, reflection, solitude, if needed, actual therapy, with a professional. Process your pain with yourself first. Then come to her, not as a man who needs to be fixed, but as a man who is working on himself. That is intimacy. That is depth. That is a conversation she will actually want to have with you. Number 8, never lie to keep the peace. Small lies, white lies. I'm fine. I agree. That doesn't bother me. Men do this constantly, not out of malice, but out of conflict avoidance. They have confused peacekeeping with peace. Seneca wrote something that should be tattooed on the inside of every man's wrist. It is not the man who has little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Seneca. Applied here, it is not the relationship with conflict that is poor. It is the relationship built on suppressed truth. Every lie, no matter how kind its intention, is a small withdrawal from the account of trust. And trust, once overdrawn, is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. Smart men speak truth with compassion, not truth wielded like a weapon, but truth offered like medicine. They learn to say, "This bothers me and I'd like to talk about it," not in anger, not in accusation, but with the quiet conviction of a man who respects himself enough to be honest. Because here is the secret the Stoics knew. Real peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of honesty. The relationship built on comfortable lies is not a fortress. It is a house of cards, and one honest wind will bring it all down. Number 9, never try to change her core nature. The Stoics had a word for the way nature unfolds according to its own logic. Logos, the universal reason, the order beneath chaos. And Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again in his meditations. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. Every man who has ever tried to fundamentally change a woman has learned the same painful lesson. You cannot. You can influence. You can inspire. You can model behavior. You can communicate preferences. But the core of who she is, her temperament, her values, her way of moving through the world, that is hers. And the attempt to reshape it is not love. It is control. Smart men ask a far more important question before committing deeply. Do I genuinely love who she already is? Or am I in love with who I imagine she could become? Because if you are waiting for her to become someone else, you are not in a relationship. You are in a renovation project, and people are not projects. Accept her fully or release her kindly. Those are the only two honest options. Number 10, and this is the most important one. Never, never place the full weight of your happiness on another human being. This is the summit of Stoic philosophy as it applies to relationships. And it is the truth that most people, men and women alike, spend their entire lives running from. We are taught by films and songs and stories that love completes us, that somewhere out there is a person who will fill the void, who will make us whole, who will make the unbearable bearable. And it is a beautiful idea. It is also, according to every Stoic philosopher who ever lived, a catastrophic one. Epictetus said it plainly. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Your happiness is an inside job. No woman, no matter how extraordinary, can be your sunrise every morning. She cannot be your purpose, your peace, your identity, and your joy simultaneously. That is not a relationship. That is a burden. And the man who has done his inner work, who has built his peace from the inside out, that man enters a relationship not as someone searching for what's missing, but as someone choosing to share what he already has. That is the most attractive thing a man can bring to a relationship. Not money, not looks, not status. Wholeness. The Stoics called it eudaimonia, the good life, the flourishing soul. It is not found in another person. It is cultivated slowly, painfully, beautifully within yourself. And then, and only then, you are ready to truly love. Let's bring this home. 10 things, 10 lessons from the greatest philosophical tradition the world has ever known. Let me say them one final time, quickly, so they land. Never seek her validation to feel worthy. Never abandon your purpose for her attention. Never argue to win. Argue to understand. Never use silence as a weapon. Never neglect yourself in the name of love. Never chase what runs from you. Never make her your emotional therapist. Never lie to keep the peace. Never try to change her core nature. Never place the full weight of your happiness on her. Music settles. Narrator's tone becomes intimate. These are not rules for a cold, detached man. These are the principles of a free man. A man who loves deeply because he is not desperate for love. A man who is present because he is not lost. A man who gives because he is not empty. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, knowing they might never be read by another soul. He wrote them for one audience, himself, because he understood that the greatest relationship you will ever be in, the one that determines the quality of every other relationship in your life, is the one you have with your own mind. Get that right, and everything else, I promise you, becomes far, far clearer. If this video gave you even one thing to think about, one thing to carry into your week, then please hit that like button. It helps this channel reach the men who need to hear this most. Subscribe to Wisdom of the Stoics, because every week we go deeper into these ancient teachings and show you how to actually apply them in your real life. And before you go, drop one word in the comments that describes how this video made you feel. Just one word. I read every single one. Until next time, stay disciplined, stay grounded, and as always, memento mori. Remember that you will die, and let that truth make everything you do today count.